Hi guys, welcome to the Coaching Corner. You have myself, you have Harry Smith, and you have Mike Challis on the show this week. So obviously, hopefully by now you know who Harry is. He is a coach on the team, and Mike is not a coach at the moment. He is a physio, so I'm not saying Mike's going to become a coach. I don't know why I said that. And that was just a completely random comment. I'm not going to restart this intro. It's absolutely fine because that's what the Coaching Corner is all about. It's kind of just a bit of a free-for-all in terms of discussion. Mike is a bodybuilder himself. He would actually be starting contest prep not too long if it wasn't for other physio commitments. And I guess Harry is potentially going into men's physique at some point. He's kind of umming and ahhing, but it's great. We all love kind of this. And so it's nice just to chit chat about life and stuff. So I don't know if, Harry, you want to talk about your Christmas. Actually, all of us have had a bit of a sham of a Christmas, to be honest, but for different reasons.
I should have kept my positive test so I could hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, you got a PCR, right?
I'm waiting on the response from that. But I think I told you that because I tested positive on Boxing Day, there were no centres. The nearest centre open to me was like an hour drive away. So I opted for the postal one instead. And I sent that off the day before yesterday. So they should be contacting me today. But at least I got to spend Christmas Day with my family and then clearly infect them all with COVID because 3 of them since have tested positive. So yeah.
Are they okay?
Yeah, they're all okay. We none of us have got the PCR back yet, but we all presume it's Omicron because all of us have had like crazy mild symptoms. Like the only reason they even took tests was because I tested positive. They said without me testing positive, they would have ignored the symptoms. It's that mild.
Yeah,
so,
that's good.
I'm a bit stuffy. You can probably hear it, but that's it. So, yeah.
I have a feeling I might have had it, but the tests, I never actually took a PCR. I only took lateral flows and they were all coming back negative, and then it kind of passed. Only because I wasn't feeling great. It could have just been a cold though. Like the symptoms are so similar to.
I've had worse colds than Omicron or whatever I have right now. Yeah.
I think you had a sore throat, right? That's what I.
Yeah, that was the first symptom I had was a sore throat, and that's what made me take the test. It wasn't even that bad. It was just like it's sore enough that you can't ignore it, but it wasn't crazy sore. It was sore enough that I was like, maybe I should do a test.
My resting heart rate, I don't often check it, but because it had been rapidly coming up post-show anyway, my resting heart rate went to almost, I don't know what if you guys know what yours is, but mine came in the high 50s, which is like when I'm 200 pounds, that's normally where it might get up to.
Mine is typically
settled back down to the mid 50s.
Mine's typically under 50 or just around 50, but I've been inactive, but it's always been that. As long as we've worked together, Steve, even like 4 years ago, it was like that. It's the same watch as well. So it's trustworthy data, but now it's about 56, but I've barely done any steps because of self-isolation. So I bet my fitness has gone down a bit. So normally I'm about 10 to 15k steps.
Do you know what yours is, Mike? I bet yours is low.
Yeah, it's about 40. If I'm well recovered, it's in the 30s.
I have seen under 40 before, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, the data's in.
Yeah. Mine in prep doesn't. In previous preps, it went below 40 on my Fitbit, and again, similar to you, Harry, it's like the same one, so it's kind of like at least it's a trend. But this time around, it stayed in the mid. It didn't really go below the mid 40s. I think it might be because I was stood and wearing the weighted vest the whole time, so it just like made me have to work harder to maintain like just being alive, which is, it makes sense. That's kind of why I was wearing the weighted vest.
You happen to know anything about your familial heart rate data? Because my mum's obsessed with her Apple Watch, so I know all her data, which is interesting.
I have no idea.
Exactly the same as mine. She sits at 40 pretty much all the time, and she doesn't really do much exercise. Yeah, so I think a lot of mine's probably hereditary. So just interesting.
Does she get lightheaded or anything?
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
Interesting.
How was your Christmas then, Mike?
Yeah, so mine was different as well. For different reasons though. I was due to travel down to see my family, to see my parents, my mum, and literally the very kind of like night before, got a call from my mum, and they'd come into close contact with someone who tested positive for COVID. So it was gutting, but made the decision not to go down there just because, like Harry said, the symptoms are mild, but I didn't want to spread it. I thought that's very kind of unfair on everybody else. So and in a way it was good because my parents have since tested positive for COVID now. So it was a very good job that I didn't go down there. So So like I spent kind of Christmas on my own, unfortunately. But I feel like so it was great because I'm a bit of an introverted person anyway. So it was actually really nice to spend that time. Obviously, like I Zoom called with parents and friends and stuff. So I had that contact, but it was nice to have that time where you're not necessarily, I sometimes get a bit overwhelmed by lots of people around. And it was nice to have that time in solitude and kind of go into my layer of reflection and stuff. And I feel like I watched a bit of Star Wars over Christmas, and you know the is it The Last Jedi? I feel like Luke Skywalker, where my beard's grown a bit more. And I just like.
Hopefully, you're not going to just disintegrate into nothing witithout any character development, though. So.
No. Oh no! You spoiled the plot. Is that what happens to Luke?
Oh, sorry. Have you not seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
Spoiler alert. But no, I'm not going to disintegrate.
Didn't happen anyway. That's a different film.
Have you got Disney then? Where were you watching it, Mike?
Yeah, on Disney Plus.
Ah, nice. So have you watched Boba Fett yet?
No,
Harry?
not yet.
No, I watched it.
How did you like Boba Fett or Boba? I keep saying Boba. Boba Fett. That's how they say it.
Yeah, I liked it. It's clearly like just springboarding off the back of the success of The Mandalorian, which is nothing wrong with that because everyone wants to know more about that universe. What I really like is that they have with modern day like special effects, they got the ability to make the aliens look so much more real, but they still don't. They still use the silly practical like masks and stuff like that. And I think that's just as like a nice kind of homage to the original trilogy. Yeah. Like, you know, like I don't know what they're called, but those aliens that are like the kind of fat pig men. It's like,
those ones. Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
It's like they looked exactly the same and just as trashy in Return of the Jedi, but they were like, yeah, let's just keep them in anyway. Right. Yeah.
It was exactly what I wanted it to be, but I think that's partly because I loved The Mandalorian and it kind of was just that similar vibe. And I liked Boba Fett in that as well. And he's just like, and I liked, I don't know have you watched the animated series of like the Clone Wars and stuff?
I've tried many times and never managed to make it through an episode. The
early stuff is a bit too kiddie. The later stuff gets much better and they get good character development on the clones. And so that's why I liked Boba, because he's obviously just a clone. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Disney Plus is a lot actually. I'm excited for the rest of what's going to come this year.
I hate having to wait for stuff though. Like it's the way that we grew up watching TV, but since Netflix and stuff like that, if I don't have all of the episodes at once, I'm like, I feel like I've been like, it's a major first world problem, isn't it? But I'd rather not watch it and just wait for there to be multiple episodes to watch.
I think so, a lot of people are that way. I'm kind of I like having it as like a weekly thing to look forward to. Like I will be anticipating every time. I'll listen to like the intro. I won't skip it. I'll just listen to like the intro music and it will build up and I'll be like, yeah, it's coming.
If it's anything like The Mandalorian, pretty much every episode is going to end on like some kind of cliffhanger or leave you wanting more. That was what was so frustrating about The Mandalorian. And especially because when Disney Plus launched originally, it was like 8 months earlier in the US than it was in the UK. I hated that. So I definitely didn't watch it illegally, but yeah, definitely didn't do that.
I did a little as well. Oh, I didn't, but I did. But it's ruined for like Mike because you already know Grogu and Baby Yoda, but you haven't
not necessarily ruined because.
Well, have you watched The Mandalorian, Mike?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I think that's the best Star Wars kind of property since the original trilogy. I think it's better than The Force, than like episode 6, 7, and 8, like for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Are you a big Star Wars fan, Mike?
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan. If anything, I do like it, but like I wouldn't say like I'm a massive fan. I tell you what I am a secret fan of is Marvel Avengers. I am big superhero fan, but not something where I'd watch it every night. It's like special occasion.
Have you watched Hawkeye on Disney Plus then?
No, not yet.
He calls himself a fan, hasn't even watched Hawkeye.
I know, but I'm not great at binge watching stuff or social media or anything like that. It's very much like an episode or half an episode or something like that.
What about Spider-Man Far From Home? Have you seen that yet?
No. God, this is the worst Marvel fan I've ever heard of.
Can't say that I'm a Marvel fan at all.
There's so much like you can't talk about almost any of it without spoiling.
No, I know I can't. Pretty much, yeah.
Hawkeye, the best was just the last episode. I'll just say that.
Oh,
I felt like the last episode like was weaker than all the others. I still enjoyed it,
really?
but I liked the reveal of a particular person, and that person, you know, like I don't know if you heard, there was a theory that it might not be the same one we've seen before. It could be a variant. That the actor who played him confirmed that no, it is the exact same one. It's not a variant.
He's great.
Yeah. So Mark, I keep wanting to say Mark. Sorry, Mike. Just conditioned. One of the PTs I work with is called Mark. I'm so used to say Mark. Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say Mike's just like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
So, Mike, seeing as you're such a big fan, have you seen like Daredevil over on Netflix?
On the original one with Ben.
Not the film, the series.
That one doesn't count if you're a Marvel fan.
The series, because the series is top tier.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I'll get onto that then.
Season 1 is brilliant, and season 3 is brilliant, and season 2 is essentially the Punisher season 1. So, yeah,
the Punisher
season 2 is great.
Epic.
Yeah. Oh, I could easily watch them all again, and then I remember that they're 14-hour-long episodes per season, and I'm like, maybe I don't have like that many hours to watch it. But yeah, John Bernthal is I can't think of a single other actor that could play Punisher in the way that would it's just
But I'm similar. Like, I will do half an hour here or there. It's just, I imagine, Mike, you don't even watch TV most nights.
No, that's the thing. If I watch TV, it's like, it's got to be something like special.
And you started Dragon Ball, did you? Did you start it? No. I sent him Dragon Ball Super.
Ages ago.
I've never seen any Dragon Ball stuff.
I just like watch little clips on YouTube. That's basically how I get my Dragon Ball kick every time. So I've basically, do you know what? I've seen pretty much the whole end of Dragon Ball Super just through sheer YouTube clips, but I've just not watched the episodes.
Who's that? Mike.
That's Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
That's me.
So who's the target audience for Dragon Ball? Because a lot of anime is like the target audience is like 25-year-old plus, but you take like Pokemon where the target audience is like 7+. But that's not really an anime, according to most people.
It's an anime because anime is just a Japanese cartoon, isn't it? I've learned that much. And I would say I don't know who I don't know. I watched Dragon Ball as a kid, so I think I was like a young teenager at the time. I think it must be like a 12-year-old plus or something for that.
Because it's a bit like the Clone Wars. Like, people keep recommending it to me, and every time I try and watch it, I feel like I'm watching a child's TV show, which it's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think I could be doing other things right now.
Star Wars, I would watch it quite often, like in the background whilst I was like doing other stuff. But I think Star Wars in there, if you click into it, has like the essential episodes or something like that. Cool.
I saw that the last season or the final season was like really well reviewed and received by critics, wasn't it? Like that, I tried watching that one. I got a couple episodes in, but it didn't engage me that much. Like I would probably watch a YouTube video summarizing it instead. Yeah,
you miss out on like the character develop of Ahsoka, which was really great to see, having seen The Mandalorian, because then I was like, fuck, that's who that girl is.
I was aware of all the Star Wars lore anyway, just because I don't even know why. I think like I've got this, anything that even mildly interests you, you find your brain just retains the information, doesn't it? And then stuff that it doesn't, it's like, like me with Marvel. Like I remember when I was at school, when I was like in year 8, our form room was one of the IT suites. So I'd get 2 hours a day sitting in front of a computer, and I used to just read the Wikipedia pages on all different like Marvel characters and comics and stuff. And I feel like I've retained all that information. So like every time I go into a film, like even like Far From Home, I start seeing threads that I recognize from having read like the summary of different storylines. And then much to Hannah's annoyance, I normally end up predicting correctly what's going to happen. And that's just because they don't usually adapt like a story like perfectly, but they take like big inspiration from different stories and stuff like that. So I'm not allowed to speak during Marvel stuff anymore. Yeah.
You're ruining it. I just sit there and I don't think too much, and I just let it all hit me.
I'm just like, oh, that's so cool, and then I just feel super pumped afterwards.
I like seeing it I like seeing the story that I know being adapted though, if that makes sense. Like it's like The Witcher. I get value out of that because I've been a big fan of it for ages. I've read all the books and stuff. And then when I see it kind of on screen, and especially like, you know, the big reveal in the last episode of The Witcher.
I'm 2 episodes into the
Okay, I won't spoil it. There's a big reveal, but that reveal doesn't come until the like 5th book. But obviously, it being a book, because it's not a visual medium, they can have a character in it and you will be getting to know the character and not know their true identity, because obviously you won't know it until the author decides to actually tell you. Whereas with a visual medium like TV, they can't hide that from the audience, because obviously as soon as that character comes on screen, you're like you know who it is. And I just love the way that they twist that, because I remember thinking before I watched it, I was thinking they're probably going to have to do that reveal a lot earlier than they do in the books, just because of that. And yeah, it's interesting the way they change stuff to suit the different medium. So.
Sounds like we spend ages watching TV, but I honestly don't spend that long watching TV. But I will do that most evenings for an hour.
I don't spend too long watching TV, and it's like, but I did watch all 8 episodes of The Witcher in like a day and a half, so maybe I do.
The Christmas time, though, it's a bit of a weird, like, I imagine you've had time off one-on-one PT, is that right?
Yeah, I took this week off.
Well, both of you PT, just different PT.
Mine's lowercase PT, his is uppercase PT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've just been, had time to kill, essentially. It's a bit of a weird time for when you're like office jobs and stuff. I've just been working through it because it's kind of saving the time for when I knew we were moving to be like, that's when I'm going to take some time off, which I guess I can update people on. We were speaking off air, you both said like, well done for eventually. I haven't moved yet, but it's annoying though, because it's like, there's so many notice periods that you have to give for like internet, and then it's like for the gym, and I'm like, crap, I'm going to have to pay for like months of different things. I need to give it to someone somehow, but I can't. But just buying a house is expensive all in all, like paying the movers and everything. Bit of a nightmare, but once it's done, it's done.
Got like family or friends who can lend you a hand? Because I was moving out of essentially 1 bedroom. I managed to do it all in my car, just like 5 or 6 trips, and all the furniture we bought, I got it shipped to the new property, because we didn't have any though, because we moved out of like parents' bedrooms into
this flat's unfurnished, so we have 2 beds, we have like everything basically. But hopefully we've got 2 movers and like 2 packers, so hopefully they can like help us get it all done in one day, and that'll be ideal. That's what I'm hoping, at least. So. How
long's the drive between your flat and the new property?
I don't know. I'm hoping it's kind of quiet this time of year. I don't know, like that weekend maybe. I don't know what the drive is, but it takes 40 minutes like door to door with the tube, so maybe similar. I actually don't know what the drive is though. Because the Tooting's not too far.
Yeah, our drive was like 12 minutes, so it didn't feel too bad to like keep going back and forth. But then my sister moved from my parents' house to London, which was like a 50-minute drive, and we had to do like 4 or 5 trips. And it was like, at the end of that day, it was like, if I have to see this road again, I'm gonna fucking cause a pile up. Like I can't stand it anymore. But
I can't even imagine moving that distance. That'd be I can see how that's an ordeal. But we're getting like a Luton van or whatever it is, like a huge one that can just like take everything in one go and then just chuck it all in.
I take it you're taking the day off of the gym and not training that day, or are you still going to try and get the gym in that day?
It's a deload week. Sounds like I timed that perfectly. Do
you find that deloads always have a way of landing exactly where you need them to be?
Yeah.
I find that.
I've had that a lot with clients, actually.
Yeah. It's almost like we like manifest busy weeks when we have deloads and stuff like that. But,
perfect.
And then I get to start my new mesocycle in Yorkies, which is exciting. They've got a lot of like Strive/Prime kit, so it's all of that like really technical, different kind of overload the different kind of portion of the short.
Are those the ones where like along the lever arm they have like different horns to put weights on, so you can like load the end range, load the middle range. Yeah.
So yeah,
research wise, you only really want to load the stretch. That's where the biggest value is. Yeah. Not that you wouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah. At the moment, there's not research kind of supporting those very theoretical benefits of trying to load like different lengths. But apart from, like you said, the stretched and the lengthened range, which should be a priority for you. So
there's a shoulder press machine in one of the gyms I train in, and I don't know, like I'm trying my old engineer's mind, because when I used to be an engineer, for people who didn't know, I'm always looking at like how the structural mechanics or something works. And there's this shoulder press machine, plate loaded, where you can put like 4 or 5 20s on each side and it still feels easy. And it's like, how inefficient is that machine that it's happens to just be that the range of motion that you do is the easiest part of the range based on the lever arms of the machine. And it's like, it just really annoys me, because I'm like, the wasted time in putting like so many plates on. And there's a hammer strength leg press, which is the same. I don't know if you've ever used it, where it's on a pivot. So like it's anchored at the top and then it like swings like this.
I know.
You have to put like 400 kilos on it before it even feels hard, just because you're basically swinging it. And it really like, I'd had it I was going to use it for a mesocycle, and I had one training session with it and was like, no, I'm wasting half my training session putting plates on it. And then I went and used a hack squat instead. But
it's like, Mike, you know, the gym, do you have a machine, plate loaded lat pull down?
No, I don't actually.
Okay. Well, if your the gym ever gets the plate loaded lat pull down, I can put on like 5 plates and do it single arm. I'm doing it for like 10 to 15 reps. It's just ridiculous.
And you're running out of space on the thing for weights as well. Yeah.
Whereas the overhead press machine, plate loaded, I know you've got that one, which you're currently using. That one is actually very challenging. Like you can't put like multiple 20s on there.
No, I feel like an absolute wimp. Like with the amount,
but yeah, you remember the V squat at the photo studio in Nottingham? That me, you, and Pascal all struggled to use it with no load on it at all.
It's like a lot of Harry. You've got a pendulum squat.
Yeah, I've got access to pendulum squat.
Yeah, they're pretty humbling a lot of the time.
I've got is it Primal, that brand?
Yeah, I know that one. Primal Strength.
Yeah, and I like their equipment, but I just don't think that pendulum suits my mechanics very well. Like I can't do it in a way that actually feels like a quad exercise.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
It's crazy when like you can just try different, like it's the same machine, but little things can make it feel that much different. Like I don't know, I remember it was in Powerhouse. No, wait. Powerhouse. No. Was it Powerhouse Fitness? Is that what it's called in Las Vegas? They had like one hack squat and I tried it. I was like, this is the best hack squat I've ever tried. And then I tried one like in another room. I was like, wow, this is the best hack squat I've ever tried. It's just like little things. But you can normally like, I don't know, people try and break it down. But a lot of these exercises, I think we're all the kind of same way. You kind of feel it out. Like, you know, if something's doing what it should be doing by just like,
so I said in one of my check-ins a couple of weeks ago, Steve, with the leg extension. Like I've always like never rated leg extensions for me personally. And then I used I think it was a Life Fitness or a Cybex one in another gym that I'd not been to before. And it's the first time using this brand of leg extension. And I had like an epiphany. It was like the first time I'd ever used a leg extension and it actually felt like it was stimulative and productive. And then, as you know, I had like 2 or 3 sets of 20 reps and I had DOMs for like 3 days. And that was the only quad work I did in that session. And I was like, oh my God, like, it's not that leg extension as a movement is bad. It's just that the leg extension machines that I've used in the past just aren't very well suited for me. And then this particular one, it was like, I remember saying to Hannah, I like stopped her session and was like, I've got a quad pump from 1 set. Like, she's like, I don't care. And I'm like,
we all now need to know what this legendary leg extension is.
I think it was just a Cybex one.
You don't have access to this often.
If I want to drive 35 minutes, I can have access to it. So yeah,
it's like one of those, maybe you do it once a week on the weekend if you had the time.
Yeah.
Mike, do you use the yoga blocks? I know you use them for on the hack squat. Do you use them on top of your feet for the leg extension as well?
Yeah.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Oh, huge difference. Like never going back to not using them, because it makes a massive difference. Because I just found that it just stops so early, and the amount of extra stretch that you can get with the yoga blocks is just awesome. So
for me, I notice it really on the top. Like I actually can like fully extend my knee versus like being like, I got a bit more to give, but I can't quite. But you have to not go too heavy, otherwise then you just completely don't get that range.
Definitely. And I tell you what, off the back of one of your most recent posts on Instagram, something that's really helped hamstring training has actually been increasing the speed and assertiveness of the concentric portion. That's been a bit of a game changer from a hamstring training perspective as well. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think I saw it from Mike a long time ago, and he said like the hamstrings like are more fast switch dominant, so moving the like concentric more quickly with them seems to make sense. And so, like, I don't know, you can just try yourself in the gym, like try doing it more slowly and controlled versus doing it quickly. And yeah, for me, the stimulus was just,
I
like,
always find,
control
yeah.
the eccentric, but kind of smash the pad into your into the machine.
What other? Sorry, Mike. What were you going to say?
It was just not only the fiber type, but also the arrangement of the fibers of bicep femoris. Because of how they're arranged more like longitudinally, which means that the bicep femoris is designed for speed and fast contractions, versus say something like the deltoid or like the soleus, for example. Because of the different arrangements of the fiber types, they might be designed to produce force, but not at a high speed necessarily. So that's kind of also why it makes sense.
I was going to say what that rationale of kind of contracting a muscle fast, because it's we can presume it's more fast twitch and the fiber type arrangement is more linear. What other muscles could we apply that to?
So rectus femoris, sartorius, they like your big muscle groups.
How could you, in a practical setting then? So if I'm just right, sartorius is down here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've got really short shorts on. I haven't. I'm just sitting down. I'm just man spreading. So what exercise could we use to do that, to apply that kind of force then to the sartorius? I'm thinking deep squats and deep leg presses, but is that practical to do that concentric explosively?
It's really hard. Sorry, Steve.
No.
Because with something like a sartorius, so the main movements that it functions as is like flexion, adduction, external rotation. So like, again, it comes back to things like your adductors. Mm-hmm. Like, do you want to really isolate them? Because realistically, when you're working them through a movement like a squat pattern, you're inadvertently going to be working them anyway. So I think it's really hard to do. And like, for example, in your leg, in your thigh, one of the muscles that takes up the biggest cross-sectional area is your adductor magnus. And that's the most powerful hip extensor when your hip is over 90 degrees hip flexion. So again, like if you're working through that.
So when you're like here, it's the adductor magnus. Is that what you mean?
So like, say if you're doing a squat pattern and go to a deep squat, like there, that's when, and then as you go up, that adductor magnus is going to be working to provide hip extension.
Yeah.
So again, I think.
But I'm a visual learner.
Yeah.
So
I think it comes back to, those basics of, good range of movement within, one's current capabilities. And also, and just doing that, I think it'd be very tough to apply that to some other scenarios.
What about pecs? Because I theorized that mine could potentially be more fast twitch. As Steve, like I feel like I grow on like 4 sets a week of pec work. I don't know what your rationale would be there. Like, I don't know if there's anything to do with the fiber type, but I just find it really, really, really easy to do really good quality work on my pecs, so they barely need anything.
I do as well. It's frustrating because they're an area I really need to grow, and I'm like, I can't just add more. Like, I just want to add more, and I'm like, I can't, because they're already completely wrecked from like 4 sets. I'm like, God damn it.
The flies as well, like a dumbbell fly for me, I would tend to avoid them as a fly variant, because they, like, one set will make me really, really sore. And I think that the stimulus to fatigue, I don't know if it's stimulus to fatigue, it's more stimulus to damage ratio, probably isn't very effective for dumbbell flies for me personally, because I'm very flexible, and like a lot of people are, and I can get really, really deep stretch, and I can almost feel the DOMs like start when I do that one set. Through lockdown, when I was doing mostly dumbbell fly stuff, I just saw pecs for like 2 years straight, just because the only variants I had was, like barbell presses and flies. So, yeah.
I think it makes sense, though, for that to be the case in the majority of people, because I could be wrong and someone correct me. But like, when you think of back to like evolutionary, when we were kind of like hunter-gatherers, like you'd need to use your calves, your quads to work for a long period of time to hunt and just be on your feet all day. But with your pecs, you don't really need to do that. Like, it's one explosive movement to like push away or to throw. Like, that's when you use your pecs. So they've always typically been used in a very fast twitch manner. So I think it makes sense for the majority of people to kind of have that.
Same with hamstrings, I suppose. Like, they're not necessarily that active in walking, but as soon as you need to sunburst of speed, like I've always likened them almost like a bowstring. Like, you kind of pull back the bow and fire, like almost like when you watch, like a sprint start. or any running start. It just, for me, that it just reminds me of someone drawing a bowstring back and then launching it the way that people kind of fire off the start line. And as we know, that's predominantly like glute and hamstring work, isn't it? In like that initial jump off the start line, unless I'm wrong there.
No, I mean, the only thing there is that, like, hamstrings, it's a sprinting muscle, but they don't really work concentrically when you're sprinting. They work isometrically and eccentrically predominantly, which is why you get the majority of hamstring tears in lots of people, because, they're having to break the lower limb, they're having to break the shin eccentrically as the knee is driving forwards. So when you're sprinting, you're never really working concentrically properly. And it's why most people tend to get hamstring tears.
I never thought of it that way. That actually makes sense. So they're almost like, they're catching your lower limb rather than pulling.
Because essentially, if you think about it, visual is, if you imagine, like, if my finger is your leg that's driving the knee forwards, your shin is going to be traveling this way.
Yeah.
So your hamstring here is having to break the lower limb, and it's having to keep it kind of like there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because that makes a lot of sense why a tear is much more likely there as well, because obviously we know tears are more likely to happen with like change of direction, rapid change of direction, or rapid deceleration is what causes tears. Am I right there or not?
It's
well,
that
anything can cause it, I guess, but yeah.
So like for a sprinter, that isometric contraction, that eccentric contraction is absolutely essential. And again, when you're going into hip extension with that running pattern, the main driving force is coming from your glutes and your adductor magnus, and then your hamstring is just assisting with that. Essentially, like, that's why sprinters, runners, sports people, they need to have really good stiffness in their tendons, in their calf, that can then transfer the force through the chain so that your glutes can essentially just do all the work. So it's interesting. And that's why, like, as bodybuilders, we train so much differently, and like, everyone has to train for the sport or the thing that they want to do.
Yeah, that was a trend about 6 years ago in bodybuilding, where, the kind of functional training kind of emerged, didn't it? And then people for a while were applying, I guess, unsuitable training methods to hypertrophy training, like doing like box jumps and stuff like that, superset with barbell squats. I remember that. I was part of it. I remember doing stupid shit and wondering why I was hurting. Yeah.
And I guess bringing it back to the hamstrings, I was just thinking, because people might think, so you want to move fast, you do that on leg curls. Why aren't you doing it on like a hip hinge? And I think the thing is, you are doing it, like, you're trying to move the concentric as quick as you can. You just freaking can't move it fast. That's the difference. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fast movement. It's just you're trying to move it quickly, let alone if it does move quickly or not. Not the eccentric though, because
that's what I say to clients as well. Like, the speed, it's not about moving it fast. It's about intending to move it fast.
That's the word I was thinking.
Yeah, because what happens is, it doesn't happen as often as, say, people using too much load, but every now and then you get people using not enough load, because their technique, like, they were training almost like they're doing like a speed day in powerlifting. Like, yeah.
Can I just quote? I have to quote this. Can I just quote Bruce Lee from Enter the Dragon?
Of course.
It's about emotional content. Oh, it's not intent really, but content. Not
that TikTok guy, that emotional damage. If anyone has seen that, no, you'll get it now, because your phone would have been listening to me say that. But
oh god,
I think it's Uncle Roger. If you've seen that comedian.
I probably recognize him.
I'm not going to do any impressions of him, because I'm the wrong race. I will not. If I was to quote him, it would be racist. I think the fact that he is Asian himself is why he gets away with a lot of the jokes he makes. But there's a people keep stitching to a thing of him, but it's quite funny. Anyway,
I'm going to change. Sorry, go on.
I was going to ride on to, you said that the biggest cross-sectional area of the lower body is the adductor magnus. Correct? Was that what you said?
Yeah, in terms of it probably takes up in terms of a singular muscle, it takes up probably the biggest area within the actual.
So my thighs already chafe. So does that mean if I was to grow, that there potentially wouldn't be much value in me hypertrophy in mine anymore, if I could even preferentially grow different adductors? Like, well, I don't know what I'm saying really, but other than my thighs chafe, so I don't want it to grow anymore.
Vaseline.
That's it. Or what was it? I remember Davina McCall, she was doing this really long endurance thing for charity, and she used some sort of udders elk something. Anyway, anyway, tangent. But yeah, I think like it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, Steve. Again, it's where you put your energy and focus. Like if you, yeah, it depends as a bodybuilder, I guess, because yes, you could, because obviously if your adductors are really big anyway, that obviously means that what you're doing is working for that particular muscle group anyway, or you're using that in a particular way. And it's whether that is detrimental or beneficial to your physique. If it's overpowering your physique and you don't have enough quads, then obviously you might want to change the exercise selection. But if you need to have it more, then obviously you probably just can keep doing what you're doing.
I think I probably did most of my adductor growth in my early years when I used to do almost exclusively barbell squats for a quad variant. And I don't think they've grown much recently because yeah, that's definitely something that I personally would say that my adductors probably overpower my quads in terms of the actual, like when you look at my quads from the front, it's like the width comes from right at the top, which I'm guessing would mean that a lot of the mass is probably coming from the adductor group more so than the quadricep group.
Inner thigh.
Yeah.
That's what mine's like. And I know I attribute it. It's like you said, you can feel the DOMs when you're doing like a dumbbell fly. When I haven't back squat for a while and I go to back squats, I can feel my adductors getting sore as I go deep. Yeah. And I'm just like, I just get so much adductor when I do a back squat.
Lunges, would they hit adductors? Because do you remember, Steve, my first week of this last meso, I did one set of lunges and my adductors cramped up and I hit failure based on adductor cramp and had to rack the bar and then basically sit cross-legged on the ground for 10 minutes because I could feel my adductors literally going like that, like almost like they just got completely devastated from like half a set of lunges.
Massively.
Yeah. I think this is why it seems to me, at least in my feed, adductor isolation has become like a bodybuilders are doing it like a lot. And
it seems nonsensical then, doesn't it?
For me, yeah, I'm like, it's kind of like, I don't know, isolating. I guess it's like anything. You could say it's similar to like isolating your traps. If your traps are a weak point, sure, maybe do some shrugs. But if you have very well developed traps and they're getting wrecked all the time from everything else you're doing, maybe you don't need to isolate them. And that's me with adductors. And that's what I find with most the people I train. It's like you do deep like squats, lunges, hip hinges, your adductors are just getting absolutely smashed. It's kind of like isolating your lower back or something. It's like if I isolate my lower back, I wouldn't be recovered for a bunch of my different movements.
I'd never recover if I isolate my lower back. That's been one symptom of COVID for me, actually. My lower back every morning has felt horrible. And I haven't trained since Thursday because obviously I'm now isolating. But that's been the weirdest thing. I was going to actually message you guys and say, do you think this is a COVID symptom or not? Because I'm not doing anything at all, like a no load bearing exercise, and my lower back every morning has felt like I've had a hippo sitting on my back while I've been asleep.
Sorry, go on, Mike.
Yeah, no, I think so. Generally, recommend to people that when they've got symptoms of COVID, even if it's a cold, that you don't exercise, and that you have a gradually go back up. So essentially, like, if you think of it simplistically, like just imagine you're starting probably a training cycle all over again from week one. And having
I'm ready. I was in a deload this week anyway, or the last week. So this should have been week one, but yeah, I'm gonna be so sensitive to volume. I can tell, like I'm probably going to get DOMs just from like RLs. Bending down to pick up something off the floor.
But it is really important that people do, regardless of how, people feel about it, it's really important people do have that gradual return because obviously with COVID, it's been found to have, if you return too quickly or too aggressively, there have been cardiac implications associated with that. And so even if you're a fit and healthy individual, just by necessarily pushing too hard, you can open yourself to risks of increased respiratory, heart, cardiac kind of conditions. So I think if anybody's listening to this and they think I'm just going to power through, don't, it's not worth, a couple of weeks, and to put yourself at increased risk.
I have noticed shortness of breath for me because normally I don't get out of breath because I've got quite a high daily step count typically. And just if I say I had to go up the stairs twice in 5 minutes, I'm like, I wouldn't describe it as a shortness of breath. I would describe it as almost like a suffocation feeling where I feel like I'm trying to breathe through a rag, like I can't get to my full lung capacity, but not in a bad way, just in like, I'm like, ooh, this isn't normal. Like,
yeah.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
I had some of that when I had COVID, when I wasn't vaccinated. So like I couldn't do an overreaching week on those symptoms. Like I was basically bedridden for a good 3 to 4 days, and like it hurt to breathe at times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, going upstairs, I definitely had that like shortness of breath where I was like, I feel like he could have like an asthma attack or something like going on there. So I think that's great advice for you to give, Mike. And on the back pain, the first night I noticed that I probably had COVID was I slept awfully because I had severe back pain for like 2 nights. It was like, it wasn't lower back though. It was like mid back for me.
That's normally a symptom of me when I get a virus is I get mid back pain. And that's why I was like, oh, lower back's interesting. Another random fact about me, I had scarlet fever about 4 or 5 years ago. Did I ever tell you, Steve?
I don't think so.
Scarlet fever is like a medieval virus that is almost dead. And you have to, it's so contagious that when I had it and my GP confirmed it, they had to report it to my local council, because it's one of those things where it can cause an outbreak apparently. But anyway, since I had that, now when I get a virus, I get like a red rash appear everywhere apart from my face.
Wow.
Like it literally looks like someone's got a red felt tip and has just spent like all day just like drawing
I had
dots.
Rashes when I had COVID the first time. Yeah. I don't know if I presume I haven't had it again, but the first time I definitely had that.
But yeah, so that's for me. And it starts on my stomach as well. So like whenever I felt sick, it's funny, like now my check is like, I'll look in the mirror and see if I've got like any rashes, because that's how I can kind of gauge how sick I'm going to get. But yeah.
Interesting.
Do we think there's going to be a lockdown? What are your plans if there is? I don't even want to have this conversation, actually. Maybe I revert it. Okay, I'm going to ask you about New Year's.
I was going to say, I'm going to paint this wall one of those colours that's been up for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I can just do loads of house stuff. That's right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Are you I'm guessing you're taking your home gym stuff with you?
Yeah, it's all, I'm hoping we have we've booked in the movers to help us also pack. So I'm just going to let them do the beds and do the lat pull down, like take it apart. I'm not going to bother. Like they have the tools. They're probably know how to do it much better and quicker than I can. So I'm just leaving it all for them to do that. But
You're very trusting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't actually when it was very valuable though in lockdown, like having a cable system of some kind, like super helpful. But yeah,
do you have like a garage where you could make like a garage gym and a Revive Stronger headquarters?
I have an office, but I don't know if the floors are probably as well built as these, because the house is built in like Victorian, just about. So it's quite old.
Is your office upstairs or downstairs?
It's up one floor, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know where I'm going to put all the weights and stuff. And yeah, I think
you could do a gazebo gym if you've got a garden.
Tiny garden, so I might have to put it out there. Like there's probably just
is it
about
like
enough
a courtyard?
space.
Is it all concrete, the garden?
Yeah, it's all concrete.
Then there you go. You got a ready-made gym. So.
Oh God, let's hope that it does not come to that. I just don't even.
I had a client in lockdown who had a gazebo home gym, and he had like just a squat rack under the gazebo because it was a really small one. And then he literally had good on him, because I don't think I would have had the motivation to do this. And then he had his dumbbells just had a tarp draped over them, but using the weight of the dumbbells themselves to keep them like in it. So like in like horrible, rainy, nasty weather, he'd have to lift up, like tarp that's collected all the water and get his dumbbells out and stuff. But yeah, fair play to him. He stuck with it. I would have just looked at it and felt sad like every time I had to work out.
People did some really the stuff people did during lockdown. It just goes to show what you can get done with such little. That's why when it comes to all the people getting really obsessive about having access to certain machines and blah, 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 like we spoke about, it can be nice, but certainly not necessary to see great results. Like I just remember someone getting some of the gnarliest sessions from home, just being like, wow, like I actually have my sissy squat machine. I can start using that again.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite ever like chest workouts I've had, like even growing up, were just dumbbells and barbells. Yeah. I remember like doing an Arnold workout, and it was like a dumbbell only chest workout, I think from the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. And there was like 8 chest exercises, but it was great. I think it was pretty much like, I think it was like decline press, decline fly, flat press, flat fly, incline press, incline fly, and then like press ups to failure or something. But
yeah, I remember during lockdown, I used to do incline bench press on my coffee table, and used to go, Mike, I'm worried. Is that safe? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's sturdy.
I had that. There was so many clients. I had one client, Jason, he's probably going to listen to this. And he was, you know, like the doorway pull-up bars that you have, Steve, but he was doing it in his garage. So he had, you know, they're like a curved shape. He was using his own leverage was what was holding it on the beam.
Oh,
and he was doing pull-ups. And I was watching his 4 videos. I was like, I'm having an anxiety right now. And he was like, no, it's fine. Like the leverage is holding it on. I'm like, I get that, but at the same time, it also looks like if you were to swing the tiniest bit, you're just going to hit the deck. Right.
I was going to say, you have to be super controlled. At least it forces him to like be super strict with no momentum and everything and swinging.
Yeah, I had loads of clients like that where I was having like an anxiety attack watching it. Like people using like garden furniture to like prop up an incline bench and stuff. And you know, like the plastic garden furniture, and you're like, is that safe? Like,
it's going to be like a Final Destination scene where you're just like, oh.
Googling, like, does my public liability cover people doing stupid shit?
I'm hoping, I don't know, I guess they probably won't though, but like just the focus on health and well-being and how important the gyms are. And obviously some people did like all the petitions and everything to try and keep them open. You'd hope that maybe that had some influence, but I imagine gyms are just such a place to spread it that they're just going to be like, no, it's easy. They might, were they talking of like a fire break or something? That's what I heard.
I think they're talking about 2-week one. The research on gyms shows them not actually be the super spreaders that people think. They're like, what was it, like 4% transmission rate, at least with like the first COVID data. I'm not sure about Omicron, but versus like schools and restaurants, which were like way higher. But I think it was supermarkets and schools were like the super spreader places, weren't they? Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Just because I don't think there was any limit to the people. At least in no supermarket I went in lockdown limited the amount of people in it.
I had to queue for 8. Like one time we queued for an hour to get into the supermarket.
Population density is much greater where you live, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so bad. That was awful. We didn't go to the supermarket for like a month one time because it's just like, I don't want to go.
That's how me and Hannah are anyway. We're supposed to take it in turns to get the groceries, and it's like, it's your week this week. No, it's your week.
It's all right. It's like ghost vegan protein. What else do you need? Cereal.
Some oats.
Yeah, some oats. Like, who needs anything else?
I'm in one of those stages because I've been massing where I haven't had an appetite, where oats have just started tasting like absolutely nothing to me. So I'm like, oh. And even my chocolate 12 cereal is tasting like nothing. But I have got COVID, so
yeah.
When my appetite is non-existent. Interesting. Yeah.
That's what it was like when I had COVID the first time. Like I'd been dieting and I was struggling to eat like dieting calories, and I had to eat like chocolate crunchy nut cornflake clusters, whatever they were, and I was like, damn.
It just tastes like crunch. I can taste like the faintest chocolate taste, but I can tell I've still got taste. I've been testing myself every day. I've been sniffing this aftershave to see if I can still smell it, and the smell has diminished over the last like 3 or 4 days because it was quite a strong one. So I do think that I'm gonna have, when I recover, I think my smell and taste might take a while to come back.
My taste came back quickly, smell took months.
Oh really?
It's really interesting on the tasting front, not necessarily related to COVID, but how we perceive the taste of things like oats versus cereal, etc. And I think it might be related to dopamine release, because dopamine is obviously released not only through action and doing things, but say like eating chocolate releases dopamine and stuff. And I think that when we eat, say like Captain Crunch for the very, very first time, we get that huge dopamine release from eating it. But then over time, the amount of dopamine that's released greatly diminishes. And it's only through dieting, cutting, where the dopamine for that particular activity resensitizes. And then when you go back to it, that's when you get it again. And I think it comes back to a lot of the things you talk about, Steve, where you periodize things. Like over a training cycle, you periodize caffeine, you might periodize your music, because again, the music and the content you listen to is going to release dopamine too. So like you want to be really strategic of when you get that dopamine release so it can help you. And I think like that's just really interesting, like going back to a geeking thing.
Interesting, because I can't wait to get back in the gym because I want to listen to this one song. I only listen to it in like overreaching workouts, and I love it. And when you mentioned music, it lit up in my brain. I was like, I really want to listen to that. But then I'm like, because of my rule, like kind of periodizing rules I have on myself, I'm like, no, don't diminish its effect by listening to it now. Like, wait until actually working out again.
Delayed gratification, it works. It's hard, but it works.
I think have you been listening to the Huberman podcast?
Yeah, Huberman.
He had a whole podcast on like dopamine, didn't he, and like how to use it to your advantage. But it does take discipline. You can't just do it all the time.
I feel like discipline sometimes is harder being an adult because you haven't got a parent like withholding things from you. It's like, you know, like when my mum would always be like, no, you can't have a dessert until after dinner. And then as an adult, you're just like, I'll have dessert now because I can. Like, yeah. So.
But no, I think like, and again, he talked about something that was really important, and it's attaching joy and attaching like a reward to the hard work, and like coming back to the prep that you've had, Steve, like where, you know, I enjoy the hard work. I am someone who loves to work hard. And I think because you get that kind of sustainable dopamine release from that hard work, and it helps us get into the flow state, I think, if we can, it's hard, but if we can attach our identity a little bit to someone who works hard, then I think like it pays off in the long run.
I was going to switch us to a new topic. It's short. New Year's plans? Do either of you have it? Have them? Are you locked down, Harry?
My isolation ends on New Year on Sunday, so that's New Year's Day, isn't it?
Sunday is the day after, actually.
Yeah.
So like New Year's Eve is tomorrow.
COVID party around yours. Anyone who's infected.
No, because the thing is like giving it to half my family, and they didn't test positive until a couple of days after me. It means that their isolation ends like a few days later.
Yeah.
But Hannah's nan, like her 90-year-old nan, was originally going to come here because we're quite introverted anyway. Like we're not party people, so we thought like it'd be nice to host her and let her have a nice like New Year's Eve rather than kind of just being like at home or wherever. And then obviously that changed because I might infect her, so I don't think she's coming anymore. What about you guys?
Nothing much. Mine's just going to be very chilled and relaxed, and yeah, I'm not someone who really, again, this sounds really sad, but I don't really celebrate New Year's. I've never had a massive emphasis on it, and I'm always someone who I like to be in my routine. So if I can not stay up past midnight, then I'm like, hey. But I realize that from a social perspective, that's not a good thing. So for, you know, one night, it's not going to hurt anybody. So yeah, but it's still going to be fairly low key for me.
Are you going to like a friend's or something, or?
Yeah. So me and a friend, we're just going to like kind of spend New Year's and kind of,
watch some Star Wars or Marvel.
Maybe.
Actually, you've got a lot to catch up on.
I've got so
you have to watch it on 2 times speed to catch up.
I know. Well, I listen to podcasts on 3 times speed, so
3 times.
Yeah. Well, Spotify goes to 3.5 times speed, and that's good. It's amazing how you go from that back to 1 time speed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Talking like in slow mo.
See, I got myself conditioned to 2 times speed when I was listening to loads of like non-fiction stuff. And then because I went through a phase of feeling really not motivated to listen to any like non-fiction stuff, I started listening to lots of fiction, and I found that fiction, I had to bring it back down to like 1 times or 1.2. I think 1.2 I'm on at the moment because that feels the most comfortable. But yeah, like I would say have a 2 times speed thing on in the car, and then Hannah would be like, can you put it on the speed I can listen to? And then put it on 1 time speed, and then I feel like the whole world is in slow motion. Like, and apparently I talk 2 times speed when I listen to too many podcasts. I've been told that as well. Has anyone ever told you that? Because my sister does it too, and we both have a rivalry where, have you ever done those like words per minute challenges? How many words you can read a minute? We both went up to like nearly 400 words a minute before we started making mistakes, like how quickly we could read. And it was like, and then when you go on the game, that's like 160 words a minute. It's like, oh my God, like I've read it like 3 times before the line changes. But another thing, speed reading. Have you ever taught yourself to do that? Because my sister and I both taught ourselves to do that as teenagers.
Really? I've tried to get into it, but I've never quite done it. I'd love to.
It's like you use your peripheral vision to read as like more so than your primary vision, if that makes sense. Do you know what it is conceptually, Steve?
Not really.
So like you when you go to read a sentence, you look at like the third word in rather than the first word, because your brain predicts patterns and it's quite good at knowing what a word is without actually seeing it clearly. And then you don't read right to the end of the line, you change line before the end. And what you'll find is your peripheral vision and your kind of brain's kind of the way it works will actually pick up the words and the meaning. And even if it doesn't get them perfectly, it will put a word in place that would make the most sense anyway.
I think I do that just being lazy anyway. Just being like, I need to read this quickly. Like, does it make sense? Just about.
But it does make a difference though. Like when you're like, you realize that your rate of turning pages is probably like 3 times quicker than normal. And you look like that knob in the coffee shop, you know, just like when you're reading. Like,
I think I just have it where I listen to a lot of check-ins at 2 times speed, or like Pascal, when he leaves me a voice note, it's normally 1.5. And if it's ever not on the speed I normally listen to it, it sounds like a different person. Like their voice actually changes. I'm like, huh, this is weird. Like I didn't know you sounded like that. When
you increase the speed, it makes people's voice like a higher pitch, doesn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, so I found that when I do listen to podcasts on normal speed, I'm like, the host, I'm like, they sound completely different. Or like the Revive Stronger podcast, I've only ever heard the intro music on like 2 times speed. Yeah. So whenever I've heard it on like normal speed, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, when did this take so long to go through?
Oh dear. I'm similar to Mike probably on New Year's plans for me. It will be dictated by Charlotte. Really. She'll want to do something because she's a quote unquote normal person. She keeps me kind of grounded in that sense. Otherwise, I've literally already said to her, like, ideally I'd be in bed at 10. Just ideally. But the good news is I know I'm training on Sunday anyway. So because the gym Yorkies isn't open on the Saturday. So I'm like, well, if I do stay up late, Saturday can just be a bit of a write-off for me anyway. I'm not too worried about it.
Does that mean you'll have to permanently shift to like training on a Sunday?
No, because I deload from Monday. So basically I'll just have no.
So is it only closed on Saturday because it's a holiday, not because it's not closed every Saturday?
No, yeah, it's just because it's New Year's Day. They're closed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're closed on Christmas Day, New Year's Day. That's it. I thought they might even be open on Christmas Day because it's like a non-commercial family-run gym, but it seems quite quiet there. So maybe if they were busier, they might be open on those days. But yeah, thankfully quite quiet in there. But maybe I was like, maybe I'm going to drive a load of business there because I keep talking about them.
It's probably the time you train, because I found that like every gym I ever go to, because I'm like self-employed and flexible timings, it always feels dead. And then I'll see the same gym's social media at like 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh God, like it's like Noah's Ark. It's like packed full.
It would be, but I've only been training there on the weekend.
Oh, okay.
At like 10. And I think that's probably quite a common time for people to train, like 10, 10.
Probably. 30. I find the weekend at the gym I work in is really unpredictable. Like you can't ever, Sundays are the worst. Sundays always rammed, like at random times. But that's the thing with 24-hour gyms though, because there's no like pressure to get in before a particular time. So often it's spread out a bit better. When I worked in a gym that closed at 5 on Saturday and Sunday, it would always be so busy at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think location makes a big difference as well, because in Loughborough, it's so influenced by the student population. Like during a holiday period, like it's beautiful. It's like there's nobody around. There's like a couple of people. It's lovely. And then when students come, it's like, I don't know. It's like it's carnage. And again, like, but sometimes it's not predictable. Sometimes it is. Like, for example, on a Thursday morning after a Wednesday night out, it's dead. It's absolutely dead. It's lovely. Whereas like, Monday, Tuesday, it's just like heaving. Saturday, Sunday, brilliant. Absolutely.
If you want to avoid students, just like time your workouts before like 9 a.m. because they will still be asleep.
Yeah. But then you get the work rush as well.
Yeah.
So
I find my favorite window with my gym is between like sort of 7:30 and 9, because it's usually it's past the people that need to commute to London, but it's also too late for people that start work at like 9 o'clock. So it's like usually pretty empty at that time. There you go.
Definitely a good shout. 8 till 9 is a great time. I agree. Definitely.
Not PM though.
No, not PM.
Especially in my gym, like that's. If I've ever like been lazy with my PM sessions and delayed it, and I get there at like even at 4, but if it's like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., it's awful. Like I'm just like I might as well not be here. I literally can't get on anything. It's just rammed. And they're always like, the barbells are all free, but it's like my PM session's always accessory stuff. So it's like all the cables are taken. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I find that in my gym, the cables are pretty much in use from like 4 p.m. through to 8 p.m. without a break. Why is it with like Gen Pop? Why are they so obsessed with cables? Is that every gym or is it just my gym?
I think they're just so accessible, aren't they? Whereas like the hack squat, for example, I don't know if this is the same with yours, Mike, but the hack squat's barely ever taken in my gym. I think people are just scared of it. They don't know how to use the fucking thing. They're just like, what is this?
I think you're right there, because it does look quite scary to people that aren't like who don't necessarily know how to use it.
No, exactly the same. Leg press is a bit tricky. People love the leg press.
They're like quarter reppers.
Ego.
And oddly enough, have you ever found this, Steve, where you want to say use the pull-up assist machine and there's someone on it but doing like glute kicks on it, and I'm like,
that's a huge like Insta.
We get people doing the tricep pushdown thing on it, like that. And I'm like, it's like Mike's video for RP the other day. He was saying like his tricep pushdowns look like that, but not by choice. It's just because he's got like so much mass that he can't have tight elbows. He has to have them flared out. But yeah, I've always wondered that. And like, you almost want to ask someone like, do you really feel that in the muscle that you're trying to feel it in? Like, people
just don't think about it, do they? They're just like, I'll just jump on this thing. Guys, we're an hour. So I think we could probably just keep chit-chatting for another hour. But I think people probably get sick of us. So if they've got this far, well done. I think everyone should put in the comments, Mike needs to up his Marvel game if he's going to call himself a secret fan. He's actually a secret fan because it's like everyone, like you wouldn't think he was a fan because he just doesn't keep up with it. Sorry, Mike. For once, I'm not the person that's getting rinsed. Normally it's me who everyone just like drives into me, but Mike's like, I can be slightly alpha to Mike somehow here.
I'm a shambles.
So guys, thank you so much for listening. Harry, Mike, thank you for being with me here, and we'll catch you. Well, this will come out in the new year, so yeah, here's to 2022.
Happy 2022.
Happy 2022.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.